Hello and welcome back to the very final episode of Single Sounds. This is a happy episode. I'm not going to be sad. I am Katie Mac, the host and creator of this amazing podcast, if I do say so myself, where I usually interview singles, and you as the listeners of this podcast can write in if you like the sound of them. But this week is my very last expert episode, where we usually cover all things modern dating to help you on your dating journey. You might have noticed this is quite a long episode, but we just had so much to cover. I sat down with Daisie-Belle, who is the host of her own dating podcast called Daisie Dates Podcast. I will link it in the show notes as she has some amazing episodes on some really important topics around dating, mindset, heartbreak, and relationships. Today was really special for me because I loved answering all your questions and dilemmas with Daisie. I've always wanted my own The Girls' Bathroom moment where I read dilemmas. And I have just so much to say around modern dating, especially since living it for the past 6-7 months. I feel like I've learned a lot. It's really been a roller coaster of emotions. So I just think it's really important to talk about. In this episode, we covered the spark, return of the ghost, or technically zombieing, submarining, as it can be referred to, the fear of being ghosted, how to protect your mental health when dating and trying to avoid dating burnout, being the only single friend in a friendship group, how to date in real life, and some really good dilemmas about when your partner's bestie doesn't make effort with you and when someone suddenly says they're not ready for a relationship but will get back to you. Gosh, even just reading that gives me anxiety. But yeah, all this and so much more has been covered. So that is why the episode is a tad lengthy, but I think it's completely needed. And even though I am going on a break with the podcast, all these episodes will be staying online wherever you listen. So you can dip in and out if you need some advice later down the line, particularly maybe when the journey's getting a bit tough. Also, of course, can't go without mentioning that the finale of Single Sounds is, of course, the live show, which is tomorrow in Oxford Circus. I can't wait to see loads of you there and celebrate the past 2.5 years of dating different and away from the apps via podcast. This project/business has really brought me so much fulfillment and joy. I want to thank every single one of you that is listening right now, and just anyone that's ever tuned in to an episode or come to a show. It is quite unbelievable that we've lasted this long and all the happiness and success that has come from just an idea. This is goodbye for now, maybe not forever, but no promises. I hope you enjoy this final episode. DM me and Daisy, let me know what you think. And if you are going through a dating journey, I really hope this episode makes you feel less alone. And also from Daisy's amazing personal experience of how she met her current partner, I hope it gives you confidence to try something new, something different, be brave, bold, and know that whatever you're looking for is out there if you work towards it. Hi Daisy, welcome to Single Sounds.
Thanks for having me. Very excited about this.
I'm really excited. We're going to go through all your dating dilemmas, questions, everything that we've got from both our audiences combined. I got a really good response, did you?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this because you just never know what people want to know, and it's just really interesting to hear kind of all the different things that people do want to know. And we've all been in the bubble, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Of like, oh, where do I go with this? Hopefully we can help.
Yeah, I hope so. But we should put a disclaimer at the top that we are not professionals. So if there's something you're really struggling with, maybe go see an actual, therapist, doctor. Yeah. But this is a light-hearted space.
Exactly. I am training to be a therapist, but I'm not yet qualified, so I can't claim to be.
That's good though. In training therapists, we've got one here.
Yeah.
I'm not anyone of any significance, but I've done a lot of dating.
And you've been through it all, and that's what counts. I think the life experiences count more than sometimes the advice that people can give.
True. Okay, I'm going to dive in with the first question because it's so relevant to you. And obviously I know this story, but I feel like no one else does. And they need to hear it multiple times. I mean, I'm really excited to hear it again. So the question from my audience was, how do you approach people in real life?
Oh, I love this.
This is your story.
If anyone's listened to my podcast, they know that I love this, and I'm a massive supporter of making people go up to people in real life.
Yeah.
And you know what it is? My advice would be to just not, I know it's hard to say like not care because you always will care, but what have you actually got to lose? Because if you go up to a complete stranger, you do not know their story. They could have just come out of a breakup. They could really be not looking to date right now. They might not be single. So like, you never know their situation. So if you get what people call rejected, which I think is not true. If someone says no, it isn't necessarily rejection. You're just not for them. And we're allowed to not be for people. Yeah. But if you get rejected, it doesn't mean that they're not attracted to you. But I think definitely as females particularly, we instantly take that as, well, actually, no, I'm sure guys do as well. Yeah. Take that as, oh, I'm obviously not attractive enough for them. That isn't it. Remember that it's not only attraction that people go by. They might not have felt like, I don't know, an energy that they wanted to feel, or it might have just been in your approach. So in terms of going up to someone in real life, I think you have to know that there's so many different factors why someone might say no. And if someone says no, whoever you are, respect that. And be like, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. Thank you. Have a good night. And then you go. Yeah. And then what? You're never going to see them again. So why people get so nervous to go up to people in real life, I don't understand that, because I'm just like, we've got nothing to lose anyway. My approach to my boyfriend, who I did meet in real life.
I know. I love it.
I know. And this is, the opening is so wild. But for me, it helped that barrier, because my first question was, hi, are you single? And people are like, what? Is that the first thing that you go in with? But it was because if they're not single, you're instantly told, yeah, no, I'm not single.
So and you don't have to continue. Yeah, you don't have to like further embarrass yourself almost.
I think what I used to hate when I was dating was someone wasting my time. Yeah. Especially when I was dating seriously. Talking to a guy at a bar, you know, he's next to you at the bar and he might just be being friendly, bless him. And I love that for them. But I hated getting on with someone, me being like, oh my God, I haven't had a connection with anyone in ever, like for ages, and I'm only on the apps. Hi, are you single? And they'd be like, no, sorry, my girlfriend's over there. And I'd be like, oh my God.
I've just wasted 15 minutes like chatting to you,
So for me, it just gets rid of all of that. My boyfriend, I guess, in a way, gave me signals. We were in a wine bar. It was in the day, like 2:00 in the day. He was with his family. So there were a few young girls there as well. So we were trying to work out if they were his sister or girlfriend. Yeah. Couldn't really tell. So after a bit of and ahhing, I was with some friends that just went, Daisy, you're moaning about the apps all the time. So you have to do this. You have to go up to him. And if that friend didn't say that, I probably wouldn't have, because I was feeling a bit like, I was like, oh, I don't know. Oh, you know, you're all going to be watching me. It's cringe. Anyway, I'm so glad they said that. I waited till he got up to get his coat, so he was a bit away from his family. Yeah. Because obviously, like, I won't lie to you.
You weren't going to go up to the table, no.
There was 1 minute I was going to go up to his dad. Now knowing his dad, I'm so glad I didn't. He would not have known what to do with himself. He would have been like, oh. But there was a moment that I was like, you know what? I've had a wine. I'm so over this dating app malarkey. Anyway, I waited till he was away. He was around the corner. And I went, are you single? Took him a moment to process. He'd had a lot more wine that day. And this has never happened to him before. So he was like, and I was like, oh God. And I was like, I'm only asking because is that your girlfriend, like, round the corner? He was like, no, that's my mate's girlfriend. I'm single. So I relaxed. And then we got into a conversation. He's really good at speaking. He was just kind of like yapping my ear off. And the adrenaline was going through me. So I was like, I just need to go back to my friend now. Like, we've exchanged numbers, let me go.
Oh, you did the number exchange like right then and there?
Kind of, yeah. Like we got into a bit of conversation and I was like, look, my friends are waiting. Shall we take each other's number? Yeah. Now I hate this, but I gave him my card, like my work card. I hate that. I hate that for me. Really hate that. And
why did you even have it on you?
I always have my work cards on me. Always.
Just carry them around.
You never know who you're going to meet. Self-employed life. But no, I hate that. But I didn't want us to be swapping numbers like 07491 when his family are right there, because they were leaving. So they were about to walk past us any minute. So it was all about making this like as stress-free and easy as possible. Nice. Gave him my card. I don't like doing that because I find that people Google you first or look at you on Instagram first, which I find is the problem with dating apps, because you can always find something on someone's profile that will put you off.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't
reverse
like
image search now. I do that pretty much on everyone I'm matched with, and it comes up straight away with their LinkedIn or something. Wow. Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, you can find someone so easily nowadays.
That's
you just
crazy.
need a picture of them. Like,
oh my God.
You don't need their name, their full name.
No, and obviously I didn't want him to find that I do a dating podcast, because a lot of people don't like that.
Oh yeah, I get rejected left, right and centre for this. So
I think especially guys, they're not as open about talking about it. So I think they're just like, oh no. Anyway, so I said, I'm going to give you this. Please don't follow me on Instagram or anything. Like, can we just get to know each other by text? Yeah. I don't know if he did that or not, but we texted for a week and we met the next Saturday.
Nice.
And from there, it's just been really easy. And I do think that meeting someone in real life helps you give someone a chance a bit more. What I mean by that is if I'd have just met him on an app, that week was a slow week. I couldn't be bothered to text someone. He'd text me that night a little bit drunk, like, do you want to just meet me and my mates? And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I want to meet you properly next week. We need to go on a date. You need to take me out. But I thought if that was just to go on an app, being like, oh, do you want to meet me tonight? Like, on, like, you know, from an app, a bit drunk, I probably wouldn't have really given him a chance.
Yeah,
but I think when you meet someone, you get an instant energy. So I think I'd encourage everyone. I think always still have the apps. I don't think like deleting the apps is the answer. Yeah. But I think you need to be open to it. As an example.
Yeah, it's just having both. I think a combination is really powerful. And just being open to it in real life. Not just being like, oh, the apps are my only space to date. So you're just like not approaching anyone, shutting it down. Yeah. I think, having the combination is really strong. And
you have to, there's sometimes moments, like I was on the tube today here and there was a guy, it was so funny, he just put on his playlist and he was like proper bopping, like he was just but it wasn't cringe, he was just like, I'm having a good day. Yeah. And he was just like, look at his phone, he wasn't asking for attention, but he was just like bopping. And I was like, oh yeah, Maggie Rogers, cool, yeah, a bit of David Guetta, I could see.
No, you can see it right now.
That's fine. An older woman kind of like rolled her eyes and I was like, he's just living his life. And I thought, if you were kind of thought this person was good looking right now, he was a young guy, and if you were single, that would be a perfect opener.
Like, to say like, oh, I love...
What are you listening to? Or, oh, I want to join in. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And there's like those moments that you can make into something less cringe than, hi, are you single? Because I can appreciate for some people that's quite cringe, and that's fine because it is a little bit, and I'm happy to.
I do like the efficiency of them just getting to the point. I think that's way more my style, just being like, let's just start this.
Cut to the chase.
Yeah, if you say no, then I'm just going to leave.
Yeah. And I find that easier. I do, because who wants to be talking to someone that has a girlfriend? I don't want to do that for them or for their girlfriend. Like, I don't want to put them through the awkwardness of that. So we're just getting rid of all the awkwardness. But for me, my biggest advice is you actually never have anything to lose. Someone's going to say no. You're never going to see them again. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're ugly. It doesn't mean that they didn't think that you looked nice. It actually doesn't mean anything. There's been loads of times that people may have come up to me or spoken to me in a bar and I've just been like, sorry, with the girls. And it hasn't really come down to anything. It's just because I can't be bothered that day to speak to someone.
You're not feeling it 100%.
Yeah.
I've so had that when someone's approached me and I've just been like, oh, tonight was about me and my friends. Like, I'm not going to now go chat to you for half an hour because, to be honest, like, that will annoy the people that I'm with. And that's not a reflection on you. That's just my headspace. Other days I'd love it, but no one does. It's classic.
That's the thing. People always come up to you when you're least expecting it as well. Like, he was not expecting that. He was with his family. Like, all the nights out he's been on and all the festivals he's been to, and he's like, that has never happened. And that's what's weird about it. But yeah, I guess, as mentioned, he gave me some signals. He kind of looked behind a few times where I was sat and he made it look like he was looking at the clock, but he was definitely looking at me a little bit. Yeah. So I thought, he's looked over a few times. He looks like he's single. There's no ring on his finger. Let's see.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So I got a question about how to get rid of the fear of being ghosted.
Oof. What happened to me this year? It's a toughie. It was horrible. It took me so much longer to get over than those nice, kind, like, I'm not really feeling it messages, because you just think they're going to pop back up. I still think maybe today you might, like, it's always in the back of your mind. It's so much harder.
Yeah, and I think you never get closure with ghosting.
No.
And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but for me, I needed closure with everyone I ever dated. Like, I needed closure.
That's so interesting, because I got a question that was similar. Should you ask the real reason why, if someone says they don't see it going anywhere? So then, like, should you actually try and find that closure?
Oh, that's tough, isn't it? Because
I don't think you should, but it sounds like you always needed it.
I always needed it. I think as I've gotten older, a little bit less. But for me personally, I think people, if you've spent a certain amount of time / months with someone, I think someone owes you closure. I really do. And I know that can be there's a lot of advice online, and I also kind of agree with that. I wish I could let things go, but I'm not a person that lets things go generally. Yeah. I find it hard to fall out with people. I get really upset if, like, friends fall out and we never kind of look into why. So I always feel like if you've spent intimate time with someone, I think they owe you the closure. There'll be a lot of people that disagree with that, but I think we need to get around the fact that we think that we never owe anyone anything and we can just do what we want and we can just move on. I think it's a healthier dating world if we could actually just be honest.
I would agree with that. I think we should all get it. But I think there's so many people in this world just that are never going to give it to you. And I think, to be honest, if you're forcing out an answer, they're probably never going to tell you the real one, which is why I'm always on the side of my answer is they've chosen to not continue this connection. That's enough for me. I don't want to be with someone who doesn't want to be with me. That's my closure. And I just tell myself that over and over and over. But yeah, I think, to be honest, like, I've had some absolutely wild messages this year because I've been multi-dating like quite a lot.
Multi-dating? We'll talk about that soon.
Yeah, I've never done it before because I'm an anxious attachment style. And I wanted to give it a go because a lot of people said that it was really helpful for that kind of style. And I could 100% agree that
I agree.
It's been so helpful with the rejection side of things and the ghosting side of things, even though I did get hurt by that person that did it, more just because we'd been on 5 dates and it felt like a very long time to do that than to just like, you know, cut communication. As in, he literally, the last message I got from him was him saying he was going to A&E. So I was actually like concerned for his welfare.
He could be, you know what, he's dead.
He's not.
Good closure.
He's not, you know, because I know that because I checked his LinkedIn and he was posting the next week about his like work. So I was like, fucking great. But
I love how much stalking happens on LinkedIn now. Like I never went there.
It's so much better. Like
so
you can really
hilarious.
see like everything because you can't turn off like, you know, likes and comments. So if they're active on there, you can just see it. So I knew it wasn't dead unless someone else was using his LinkedIn.
So mad.
Doubt it. But yeah,
oh my God.
That's why it like really annoyed me because I was like, that's just disrespectful because I was actually concerned for your well-being because you told me you were going to urgent care. Crazy.
And you know what? When I've been ghosted in real life, as in when someone has left my house and I've never heard from them again, I've always had the feeling like deep down in my tummy that I'm not going to hear from them again.
You do know, it's like a gut feel.
Yeah.
You're like, wait, this doesn't feel real. And that's when he told me that he was sick. I think part of the reason I got ghosted was I wasn't sympathetic or as sympathetic. If I actually believed he was sick, because I think I just knew he was making excuses. So, yeah.
I remember a guy leaving my house and being like, I'll text you later. And I remember thinking, you're not going to. And we'd been dating for like 3 months and he ghosted me. And a few years later, he texts me again and decided to meet up. And he was like, I was just young and silly. And I did meet up with him. We had an amazing date and he ghosted me again twice. And I was just like, this is mad. Like that, and for me, that just shows that they are emotionally unavailable, that they can't just be like, I don't want to do this.
It's all on them.
So that is, I think it's really strong that you say you do what you do, where you're just like, you know, you tell yourself the story, because that's actually really strong. And it is a weak thing to need closure. Yeah. I'm fully aware of that. I do think you're owed it if you've dated someone for like 3 months or so, because I think after that period, that's when it normally turns into a relationship if it's going to go that way. And I do think we just need to be honest with each other. Like, I don't see the harm in just being like, you know what, you have a few views that I just can't get on board with, and I just don't think it's going to work. Or, you know what, long term I've been thinking that you really want children and I don't. And I think these conversations are just adult conversations to have, and I don't know why everyone is so afraid of them.
I think they're just scared that they're going to get kind of like shouted back, or it's going to turn into like an aggressive argument. Yeah. So for example, with the views comment, I can imagine then someone coming back being like, well, tell me the views and I'll like explain my reasoning. And then they're just like, no, I just want to end this connection. I don't want to like go into it that much.
And people
which is why you get the generic, like I had a really funny one. It just made me laugh. This date ended at like 3 a.m. Clearly it had gone very well. Met him at like 6, 7. He texted me the next day being like, I didn't feel a spark. And I was like, no. Like, you do not spend like 7 hours with someone and then be like, I didn't feel a spark. You leave in the first couple of hours if you don't feel a spark.
Yeah, you really do. Like I used to stay an hour max.
Whatever
sometimes.
His real reason was, like, it wasn't that. And I was like, this is why I'm not going to bother replying, being like, no, tell me the real reason. Yeah. I obviously just said, thanks for letting me know. Appreciate not ghosting. That's what I always say. Like, goodbye. Like, have a great life. Like,
yeah. In those moments, I think that's a really good response. I think more so I need closure when it has been months. Yeah. You know. But yeah. I mean, the spark is just a thing that doesn't exist anyway. It's a thing that everyone's chasing that is not real. Like it isn't real.
I think most people now, I'd hope they know that it's not real.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, he even put spark in like quote marks in this text. And I was like, so you know that you shouldn't even be looking for that, but you've still used it as an excuse. It really made me chuckle.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So then, the fear of being ghosted, how have you managed to overcome that with the ghosting that you've experienced?
Ooh. I guess
Actually, I'm going to shout out Matt Hussey here because he has an episode on it. I don't know if you've listened. It's really short. It's like 15 minutes. I reckon I've listened to that episode about 15 times. Probably the amount of minutes it takes. He's so brutal in it. He's like, this is, you know, you shouldn't even be upset by this because why would you want to be with someone who could treat a human like that? And the way he says it is very harsh, and it really makes you think like, oh, this is on me and I shouldn't actually be upset that this person didn't want to be with me. And like, he's very good at just conveying like, you dodged a bullet here by not being with that person. So I feel like if I hadn't have had this ghosting experience, I wouldn't have then found that content and then actually sat with it and been like, no, you're right, that's an insanely inhuman thing to do to someone else. I would never do it personally. No. And now it's happened to me, I even more wouldn't do it to someone else. I'll always like make sure the connection's like rounded off, closed, because obviously I've done my fair share too of sending those awkward messages this year. And I've done a couple in person as well, which is really tough. I prefer to do it at the end of the day. And I think that's quite controversial. I don't think everyone likes to do that. But I've started doing it even more when I'm unsure about the connection on their side as well. I've just been like, look, how are you feeling about this? Would you like to do something again?
That's really good. That's so good.
They do often lie. I will caveat this. And like, especially my friends in relationships, they don't really get this. So I had one recently and he was like, yeah, sure. Like, when are you back from this trip? Let's do something on the Tuesday. Like, as in he actually put in a day. And then the next day was like, oh, I've been thinking about it. And actually, I think we're a bit too different, blah, blah, blah. And that's my only caveat, would be careful with that, just because they say in person, like, yeah, well, let's do something else. I think they're just afraid of rejecting you in person and they're not ready for that, even though I've done it to people.
Yeah, people definitely find it hard to reject in person.
Exactly,
actually.
and they'd rather
maybe
wait
a text
to the
on
text.
The way home.
But I still think it's important because I think then you get that text much faster than if you would have had if you just ended it being like, oh, see you soon, maybe, you know, like all vague. I had a nice time, like just hug goodbye, whatever you do. I think it gets you to the conclusion that you actually need to know much faster.
Yeah, I think it's good to own it as well. Like, I had a really good time. How do you feel about it? Would you like me to see it?
You're taking the control, exactly.
Yeah,
you're not putting it in their corner.
Exactly. And then when you feel like that, you don't feel as upset because you're like, fine, I took that control.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. I had something to say and I've completely forgot what it was.
Yeah, no, that's the whole question is quite difficult. It's like the fear of ghosting. I feel like you can't really protect yourself, but you can help it with these kind of questions. But like the guy who ghosted me, I had no idea that was going to happen. We were calling like every other day.
Because you normally can tell.
Yeah.
And actually the best advice I've got with the fear of being ghosted is you will just never feel like you're going to get ghosted if you actually do meet the right person. Like, I've never felt like my partner is never going to text me back. Like, I always know that I'm going to we're in the dating stages, obviously. I always knew that he was going to tell me what the date would be the next week.
Yeah.
I always knew when I was next seeing him, and I loved that.
Yes.
So I always knew as we left the date, all that night, that I always knew when I was seeing him again and where. Or he'd be like, well, let's do like tapas food this week. I'll look at places. So I always knew what he was kind of looking for. And I think when you do meet the right person that's as keen on you as you are them, you actually are never questioning if they're going to ghost you. Yeah. Like, I always knew deep down when someone was going to ghost me because they were just half there. I generally speaking, it's hard. Sometimes it does come out of the blue, doesn't it?
No, it does, yeah. And that's why I feel like you can't like ever like truly like, I think I was actually quite embarrassed when it happened to me.
Really?
Because genuinely it never happened to me before. And I always thought like, oh, maybe I just kind of choose well, or, you know, like maybe a bit egotistical, but whatever. I just thought like, and I've since watched like a lot of other like people on TikTok and stuff that talk about these things like very candidly, and loads of them say the same the first time it happens to them, like quite significantly. This guy met 3 of my friends. Like, it wasn't that he wasn't connected in any sense. Like, he even took one of my male friends' numbers so that they could go out for like drinks another time. Like, it wasn't just, you know, some guy that I went on one date with. Like, it felt very meaningful, and we've been dating a few months.
That's horrible.
So that's why it was just like, I was a bit embarrassed because I was like, oh, I chose this person from the apps, and now I've kind of like ended up in this situation that I just never thought would happen to me, because he, like, even the friends that met him were really shocked. They were like, we just didn't get that vibe from him when we met him, that he would be the kind of person to do that. But yeah, so that's why I think you can't ever like guarantee it. And don't be embarrassed if it happens to you, because it does happen to everyone. It's nothing to do with like you or how they've chosen. That was what Matt Hussey was really good at getting across, because I think I needed to hear that. Yeah. I was putting a lot of the blame on myself, when actually obviously it's not. It's all to do with like their emotional availability, and
learning that
else
is a game changer. Like knowing that they just don't have the communication skills to be like, this is going on behind closed doors, or I'm having this issue at the minute and it's just too much to date you. I've had it months later. So the person I met before my now partner, he ghosted me out the blue, and it was very much like the situation you're explaining. And then he came back like 4 months later and called me and was like, sorry, explained the reason why he suddenly ghosted me. He'd needed therapy over something, and there was a lot going on. Then he planned to see me again, and then he ghosted me again. Yeah, and that was a different guy. So that's happened to me. That's happened to me multiple times, where they've got back in touch themselves. I've been like,
so the lesson from that is cut it.
Yeah, I guess I do. I like the idea of giving a second chance, but in my experience, every time I have, they always end up doing the same thing.
The same pattern.
And I think unless someone really grows up, or really does get the therapy that they need, or really deals with whatever they need to deal with in their life, then they end up doing the same thing. But yeah, I think you're right. You can't be scared of being ghosted, because it's just a thing that happens now, and we have to just accept that people will do it. So you can't. You have to know as well that. I hate the word rejection, but rejection is going to be part of dating generally.
I think it is.
You have to go through that to get to the person that isn't going to be the rejection.
Yeah, I got so many questions around that. They were all very similar. It's like, how do you be resilient when you're online dating, or how do you, reduce burnout with dating? And I think it's because like I've experienced it in the last few months. I've gone on no more than 3 dates, I think, with every connection, and it's always ended the same, with like some half-assed message. And I got 2 in 1 week once, so I didn't do the rejecting. I got rejected twice, and I was in 1 week. I was like, gosh, this is hard. And it was the first time I properly related, and I was like, it made me want to be like, I'm gonna have a break. Like, and I don't think there's any shame in having breaks, especially with the apps. Like, just give it a pause. Your likes actually come flooding back, I realized, which is really interesting. So it's kind
true
of
fact.
It's kind of like playing the game on the apps, if you want to do that.
Algorithm love. No, I agree with that. And I think it's really important to not make your personality dating.
Yeah.
I think people thought I was doing that at one point with like the podcast and TikTok. And I
think people think that about me.
Yeah, and it actually wasn't. Like, it looked like that because it's what I spoke about online, like you do. But I didn't make my personality dating. I think I did make my personality a single. Like, I was the single girl that could do this, and I'm single, and I can do this because I'm single, and I'll always be single because that's just, I never meet the guys. And yeah, I think that might have at one point been a bad attitude to have, because I think I was vibing that off on dates, just like this single happy-go-lucky girl, which I am. I am a happy-go-lucky girl. But I think people were like, whoa, like she's just so single that she's never really then going to commit. And I was probably giving that off on my own dates as well.
Yeah.
So it's also like the messages that you're putting out, make sure you're giving the right message on a date that you actually want to put out of yourself, because I don't think I was doing that. I don't think I was giving out the message that I wanted to seriously date. And I thought I was, but I wasn't. That's
really interesting, actually, because I think I could take a leaf out of that book, because I think maybe I've been guilty, like this year, I've been talking about, or just talking on dates about other dates, because I really enjoy it. I like asking people like how long they've been single for, and like how well do they do on the apps. That's genuinely a question I ask people, because I'm just intrigued by their answers. And I think also it stems from a curiosity from like the podcast dating sense, because obviously this is a topic I'm really interested in. But I do think, it happened to me recently with a guy, and he was like, it sounds like you date a lot. And I was like, ooh, that probably wasn't what I wanted to come across. Yeah. But I was just excited about telling like some of these stories, and how everyone shares like the worst dating stories. Yeah. And this is actually tied into a question I got. Let me read the exact wording, because it was worded like quite nicely. I love how put off people get when they hear that you've gone on other dates with people, and I'm like, we are both single. You're on the app too. But yeah, this person asked, what are conversation topics that are good/safe for a first date? I thought that was interesting choice of words. Safe. Yeah. Safe. That is interesting. It's like assuming that you're going to put someone off by certain topics. Yeah, that's interesting actually, because I was obsessed with work. Like, I just thought that like talking about work and career, because I wanted someone so career driven as me,
work was such a massive topic of my dates.
Yeah.
And looking back, that's so boring. Like, I guess I made that a little bit of my personality, which it is. Like, I'm self-employed and I work hard. But I also think other people found my job quite exciting.
Your job is interesting.
Yeah. So for those that may not know, like, I'm a presenter and voiceover artist. So it's very creative and I do different things every day. So if I was on a date with someone in finance that had the same 9 till 5 every day, they found my job exciting. But I always wanted to know just as much about theirs. But it ended up that I would talk about mine because they would ask so many questions because it was so new to them. And I think steering away from work can be a good thing.
Yeah.
I think don't tell too many personal stories.
It's a good one.
I think when you're really vulnerable and open and then someone ghosts you or it doesn't go anywhere, you feel so upset that you've told someone something, and that can be really hard because it's so hard to be yourself, be vulnerable, be you, but then kind of keep a bit of yourself back as well. But someone once told me to not like give all of you on a first date, and I hate that because I'm like, well, we shouldn't play games, but I also agree. Like, I used to give everything away. You would know everything about me on one date. No, like, leave a little bit of intrigue. You don't need to know my full, like, I used to tell them, you know, my journey of where I've lived and like, my growing up and my college.
The whole
and then,
story.
Yeah, like, I would start from the beginning and I'd end.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. Like, and that's where I think an activity date is good for the first date because that is the conversation.
Yeah.
The game is the conversation.
I do agree with that. I've only done a couple this year because I do try and like to do the early ones. It's just like sitting down and talking. So I just need to check I can talk to you.
Yeah.
But it does really help having something else to steer the conversation. So you, like, I found on these silly mini golf dates, it's always bloody mini golf, you do end up talking about more interesting things. Like, we got onto like a really good topic of friends with a guy recently, just talking about all his different friendship groups, like who they are, what they do. And I like talking about friends. I think that's a nice, easy segue into like figuring out kind of who you are through the connections that you really hold dear to you. So my top tip for this is I write down like things that I'm really interested in. And I have an actual physical list. This might sound crazy, but I think it's good to come in like prepared if there are like awkward silences or the person you're meeting is more introverted, because I will just yap away. Hence having
and then
podcasts.
it normally ends up about you.
Yeah, well, that's
like,
the thing.
I would just talk about me because they wouldn't fill the space.
Yeah.
And I can talk about me, so I would. And I felt like that. Looking back, that was a problem for some dates for sure.
So what I did is, like, especially with people maybe that we didn't have like loads in common, I try and like find the things I was really interested in, make it a conversation that they could kind of have more than a yes no answer to. So for traveling is really important to me, for example, and that's obviously like quite an easy, safe topic. Can't get too controversial traveling, I don't think. So instead of saying like, do you like to travel? Yes, no. I'd say like, oh, if you were going to plan a trip next, where would you like to pick? And then obviously they'd have to think about it a bit more and go like, oh, well, it's summer, so probably won't pick skiing, but I do like skiing. And then, do you know what I mean? They would like have a bit more to say.
Then you might have a skiing story, like and that is how it develops, like a dream trip if you were given unlimited money, like but you also don't need to be cliche with it. You don't need to be like, if you were given $1 million, like you can just like subtly do it. And that is great conversation. You could talk about travel for, even if you've not really been to loads of places. Don't talk about politics. I think everyone knows that.
I think that's the thing. I have had that was my worst day of the year. So I matched with a guy on an app. We did speak, and he didn't give off any of like red flag vibes. But I got there, and all he wanted to talk about was how he was anti-woke and all his political views.
Yeah,
which
no, it's
obviously
not
they would just not align with mine either.
Yeah.
So that date lasted, I think, 45 minutes.
I mean, it's easy when someone really shows you that you're not going to get on that quickly.
And
but
I did. I said, like I said, I'm very good at being like honest in person. I was like, look, we are just not compatible, because he also was anti-feminist, which was something that was very important to me.
Oh my God, how can you be anti-feminist?
Well, this is the thing. So then once I said to him, like, look, this is not going to work, I actually had quite a frank conversation with him, and I was like, number one, why have you chosen to talk about all this in our first 45 minutes? And he was like, well, it's because I just want to be really upfront and clear of like who I am. And I was like, great, thanks for not wasting my time, because I would have hated if that was on the third date.
Yeah.
So I understand, but I did say to him, I was like, you're only dating women. You might struggle to find, you know, someone. It's like, there's someone for everyone, I guess.
Oh my God, what is anti-feminist? Incel is anti-feminist.
Well, he was also like Andrew Tate's biggest supporter, which I just think like, I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. Oh, that's a good tip for the episode. If you have any Andrew Tate supporters, never go on a date with them. Period. I see these questions online on multiple Facebook groups.
Oh, really?
Like, hi, this guy's a supporter of Andrew Tate. Should I go on a date? No. That is not safe. No. And talking about, we spoke about resilience earlier, and that's a point as well, taking it in your control, that a date might have gone wrong or you might not have liked a date, but remember that you're also allowed to not like someone too. So just because you might have walked away from that date and been like, oh, for goodness sake, another one that didn't work, but you really wouldn't want to be with someone like that.
100%
for you. So
it was really good to see, like, when it was the first time I'd strongly reacted to someone being like, this is an absolute no for me, very, very quickly. And it was really good to like see, because it wasn't necessarily about him, as in like, he was objectively an attractive guy with a good job, and like all his, credentials were kind of in line on paper, but obviously like the political views and opinions were just never going to match. But I still didn't blame him almost. I just knew that he wasn't my person.
Yeah.
And then it was quite nice to see that actually, like, you can be rejected just because of who you present as, not you. Like, I don't know, it was quite reassuring to me to be like, if someone's felt this about me, I know it's not actually about me, it's that we just don't align, and that's okay.
Yeah, like I did go on some dates with people that did say, like, I genuinely want a woman that will just like stay at home and make the dinner. And there's stay at home, look after children, make the dinner. And there's loads of women that will love that.
Yeah.
So that's great. But they knew from my date with how much I would have spoken about my career and work that I would never have been that.
Yeah.
So therefore we're just not right for each other, but another girl will be great for them.
Yeah.
And you always look back, and you would have had it as well, because we're similar ages, when a guy has like popped up on your feed and they've now got a girlfriend. And normally I'm like if they've been lovely and I've been the one to be like, oh, I'm not sure, I'm so happy for them. So I had this date once where a guy, bless him, it was all a surprise, but he asked for like my size shoe and stuff, so it all got a little bit weird.
Gosh, yes.
No foot fetish, don't worry. He took me to like a picnic in a park, but he got me plimp soles in case I wore heels, and I was like, you should have just told me to not wear heels.
Oh, that's quite sweet.
I know, but
silly.
at the time it did give me a bit of the ick.
Yeah, no, I'm not surprised.
And he'd made like quesadillas. He was like a gym guy, so made this really healthy picnic, and it was all quite sweet, but it was all a lot for a first date. Like, it was a lot.
That's a first date.
Yeah.
You got your shoes.
Yeah.
That's bizarre.
But now, like, he's with someone that they look so happy. He's with a really
and he probably
gymmy
did the
girl
same.
that
She
suits
probably
him
loved
better.
the plimsolls.
Yeah, exactly. And they look really happy. They're into loads of weddings together. And I'm like, it always works out for everyone. Like, he probably with me thought, why does she not like me? I made so much effort, but I just didn't. I don't know. I can't tell you what it was. I just wasn't into you. And people are also allowed to just not be into you. I always found that difficult to accept.
Yeah.
That they're allowed to just not be. And sometimes not even a reason for it. Can't tell you the reason I wasn't into him.
Well, it is quite conflicting, because I think we're taught so much now, like, self-love is the most important thing. Like, you should value yourself so highly. So then obviously you are like, well, why doesn't everyone like me if I'm just so great?
Yeah.
And I'm being told to like rate myself so highly. And then it's very conflicting to then say, oh yeah, people are allowed to not like you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, true.
And that's a good point, actually, because we are like self-love, and I love that. And you do, like, self-love is important, and like looking after yourself is important, and not putting your happiness in someone else is important, but also reflecting is really important, and like being like, oh, what did I do on that date that didn't go quite right, or how did I behave that I wouldn't have liked if, like, I did think back to some of the dates I've had, and I thought, if they were sat opposite me like that, would I have been a bit like, do you know what I mean? Just when I was kind of not interested, maybe I'd had a bit too much to drink and I wasn't really making the effort. If they were doing that to me, would I have liked that? No.
Yeah.
So just sometimes how I behaved on dates when I was probably younger was not the one either. So even you can like think that you're great, but also the self-reflecting, which I've only done in recent years. Which is why my dating maybe has gone a bit better. But yeah, self-reflecting is really important as well, on like your actual own behaviour. Can
I read my really juicy
Please.
dilemma? I was so happy I got this. It's a long one.
Oh gosh, I hope I can answer it. I hope I can help.
I know, it's a difficult one, to be fair. So my boyfriend's best friend makes zero effort with me. That's like the title. When we're in group scenarios, he won't ask me any questions other than obligatory, how are you? I've been with my boyfriend almost a year now, and he still hasn't bothered to get to know me. On a few occasions, he has made negative comments around me that make me think he's resentful of me, that my boyfriend is spending more time with me over him. He has admitted he feels dropped. For context, they WhatsApp every day and would see each other 3 or 4 times a week. Wow. Now they see each other maybe once or twice a week. Oh, that's a lot.
That's pretty good going for a friend. God, I wish I could see my friends that often.
Yeah, no wonder they're sad. Bloody hell. My boyfriend doesn't see how this makes me feel, even though we have spoken about it at length. He doesn't have my back when it comes to his best friend, and when he has had an opportunity to speak to his friend, he skirted around the issue and swept it under the rug. It's making me feel like my boyfriend is prioritizing not rocking the boat with his friend over my feelings. What should I do?
Okay.
So that's tough.
So basically, the boyfriend's best friend not really making an effort.
Yeah,
and spending
also
a lot of time with.
Yeah, spending loads of time with the boyfriend, which I don't see any friends that much.
I don't see any friends that much. That's a lot of time.
So much time.
So this is hard.
It's a double relationship. Like you see your partner, I'd say like once or twice a week.
Yeah. Yeah, that is. I see my partner maybe 1 to 3 times a week.
They said before it was 3 or 4 times a week.
They must live around the corner from each other.
They must be so close. I feel like in London that would never happen.
This is really difficult because you never want anyone to fall out with their friend.
And you don't want to be the reason to say, like you can't be friends with that person anymore.
I had a similar situation, I guess, with my current partner. When I met his friend, we went on a double date and he proceeded to talk about all of my boyfriend's exes to me.
Wow.
Like just blurt out loads of things and how he remembered the girls as well. If they had big tit Leah or whatever. And I was like, wow. And I was at this table when he'd met me for the first time.
Yeah.
So I didn't say anything. My boyfriend didn't say anything and we left. And I was like, that was a horrible night. Like, why would someone proceed to do that? It was all in conversation. So it wasn't hurling it at me, but it was kind of, it was 4 hours of that. And I had to speak to my boyfriend that night and be like, that was categorically horrible.
Yeah.
Because I didn't need to know any of the names of people you dated, and I didn't.
No.
I don't really do the whole stalking and looking at exes. And I'm quite lucky, I guess, in a way, because he's very much like me, my boyfriend, where he's not really got a big past of people. They've just been more dating rather than actual girlfriends.
Like exes, yeah.
And exes. So, but it was just so annoying that I knew all these names and I knew features of these girls. And I was like, I shouldn't know all this. And he was kind of like, oh, yeah. Oh, and that was hard. And I was like, I don't want you to fall out with him, but you need to tell him that isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
And time went on a little bit. And then, at a different event when I wasn't there, he did speak to him, was like, look, you actually did upset her. And if we could just stay away from like
those
times when we lived together, like maybe it's just not appropriate. And I can take a joke. We've all dated people and we've all done things in the past. So I can talk about that, but I don't need specifics of who with and when. And
no.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds a bit targeted.
Yeah. And he dealt with that in a really good way. He spoke to his best friend on his own, but in a way that boys don't tend to fall out. Like they're not going to get in a big shouty fit like girls can.
That's true.
In my experience.
Yeah.
And we all now really get on. We don't bring that up, and I see him quite regularly and it's fine. In terms of him seeing the friend a lot.
Yeah. It sounds like he needs a hobby, to be honest.
I think asking someone to not see their friend is difficult because it's going to make the girl
and if
look
they see them
possessive.
that much, like, yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But you need to not sound possessive at the same time or be made to look like you're being possessive. I would ask the boyfriend to, if it was bothering me that much, I'd ask the boyfriend to speak to the friend.
I think you have to, yeah, and say, it's so difficult though.
It's the only way
I
for
think
it to be resolved.
You could be easily met with, I don't want to.
Really?
Yeah.
I do think that your boyfriend, if it's really affecting you, you need to come to a happy medium.
Yeah, no, I
If
agree.
it's going to last, if you both want the relationship to work, you need to come to a point where you're like, how can we make this work for both of us?
Yeah.
Could they all hang out together? Would that be okay?
That's true. That could be a good solution.
Yeah.
Of like, you do see this person once or twice a week. You could even go to your boyfriend and be like, I feel like I don't know your friend very well. I'd like to get to know them better. Yeah, why don't we invite him over on one of those week meetups, whatever they're doing? Like, can you get involved?
Yeah.
And it might just dissipate maybe your feelings of feeling like he doesn't really care about you either, because it sounds like you care that the friend doesn't care, which I get. Like, you'd want your boyfriend's friend to care.
And if his
like
friend is single, that might be why as well. Do remember, if you have ever struggled to be single, like the girl that we're helping here, like his friend might be feeling a little bit of jealousy, and like that, it is kind of okay. Like, if he feels like, you know, his friend is now to split time between a girlfriend and him, you're allowed to be a bit like, a little bit annoying. You know, when you do see friends get in relationships, you're like, oh, you see them every Friday. Now I don't anymore. Yeah. It can be annoying. But on both sides, you need to appreciate that life changes and people grow up and people get partners. Yeah. So maybe, if he's single, that also might be why he's struggling a little bit.
I think it'll just be an adjustment period for the friend, and hopefully it will just kind of sort itself out over time, because seeing him less and less will probably be less painful. But it sounds like it's been quite a drop, 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah, that's literally like a family member. I can't imagine seeing.
You're like, I never see anyone this much. No. Spend the week alone. I think if she...
But after time, I feel like you just need to suggest that the best friend gets a new hobby. Just a hobby. Anything.
Or if she really makes the effort with the friend and her boyfriend sees that, hopefully her boyfriend will, you know, kind of be like, look, mate, you need to make an effort with my girlfriend.
Yeah. I think that's what I mean. I think it's a better way to just kind of like step up and be like, I don't feel like I know your friend. Let's like all do things
That's
together.
a good way to angle it. And that is a safe way to angle it so no one argues.
You don't look crazy. You just look like you're trying to be involved with their friends. Like,
on that note, I had a question about being a single friend.
Oh yes, you did.
Yeah, like how do you kind of get over being the one that's always single?
This
person
tough.
said they're around a great group of people, but they always just find that they're the single one.
I've experienced that with my family as well. I went on a family holiday and I was like the 7th wheel. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
No, 9th wheel. But yeah.
I think you appreciate that it's the circle of life.
Yeah.
Like, it's like we say swings and roundabouts. Like, just as someone breaks up, you get into a relationship. It's just so how it works.
Yeah.
And, you know, your friends might be all together now, but that doesn't mean that their relationships will last.
Yeah.
And then just as theirs might be breaking up, you might meet someone, and, you know, it does all kind of turn around. Circumstances change.
Yeah. Well, I'm a classic case of that, because I was in a 3.5-year relationship until last year.
Yeah.
And I actually gave this advice to someone recently, because they were getting really bothered about how their friends like to do things in couples, and they like to go on their double dates and their dinner dates as couples. And I said to her, to be honest, you would not want to be there. I was there last year, and it would be so coupley, because that's what obviously we wanted to talk about, because we were in the couples. Like, I used to do those double dates all the time, and we'd ask silly questions to each couple, being like, what's their like most unattractive quality, and like
what are their icks now and stuff.
Exactly. And like, as a single person, you would not want to be at that dinner, and I think it's quite hard to realize that without experiencing them. But like, you can do other things that like you enjoy, and you can go out with your single friends and do different things. And I think you just don't need to be at those dinners, and they're not excluding you. It's just because they know that actually probably you wouldn't even want to be there, and that's okay. Like,
and I think she said that she was surrounded by great people, but I also think enjoying time on your own is really important. And then good practice for when you're in a relationship. So if you do have an anxious attachment style, so you don't think you need them all the time, like need your partner there all the time. Yeah. Enjoying your time on your own is like the best skill you can ever learn, in my opinion.
It is the best part about being single, is that you learn that life skill, because you really do, because you have to just go to bed alone every night, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's the best though, is it not? I had a few nights like that this week, and I was like, I like my new TK Maxx candle. Like, honestly, walk around naked, like just do what I want when I want, eat dinner in my own time, cook it how I want, just have the best night.
I do that a lot. I romanticize my like solo time a lot.
You have to do that.
Yeah, I'd never done that before, I'd say the last year. And yeah, just like one Sunday evening, I'd just take myself to the cinema, like order my favorite takeaway, order double, just freeze it, it's fine.
Bombs, all of that kind of thing.
All of it, yeah. And I'd never do that even in a relationship. And I feel like now I've done that, I'll bring it forward to a new relationship, and it will be a lot healthier.
100%. I also think you always think that people with partners are having so much more fun. So I saw a girl.
100%. I have to remind people of this all the time. Like, I go for like lunches or like dinners with people that are in relationships but just on their own, and they tell me all these moans about their partner, and I'm like, oh yeah, I needed that reminder, thank you, that like my life is actually much more peaceful.
You have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, I saw a girl this week who went on like an adventure holiday on her Instagram with some friends, and she posted a photo of like the lovely river wherever she was, like countryside, like, oh, ready for adventures with a boyfriend now. And I was like, it won't be any better than it is with your girls. Like, it is the same. The only thing you'll get is the touch that you don't get, like the intimate stuff. It is just as fun, like, honestly, and half the time we're not doing anything fun when we're coupled up, I promise.
Yeah.
I got free tickets recently to like a massive concert with like Nathan Dorr and everything, and we were like 6 o'clock, oh, I can't bother, too tired, let's stay in. And I'm like, everyone thinks that you're doing these festivals and these things with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend, and you're not. Like, we're just doing normal stuff, and I appreciate I appreciate you want someone to do it with, but you can do the same things in friends. The only thing you are missing, it's like I would say my partner is like a best friend now. So the only thing that is different is the intimate stuff that you experience, as opposed to just with a friend. And I do appreciate the difference. I really, really do. And I can say that because I spent so long single, like all of my 20s single. But I do think you just have to really appreciate that time alone, and also make new friends. If you are only in a group of people that are with people, you need to go to single events.
Oh, 100%. I say that all the time. You need to go to
netball teams. You need to do whatever you can.
Single friends save my life. Like,
they will.
They get it. Like, especially when I get, that like ghosted or those silly rejection texts with sparks and quotes. They're the people I ring, not my friends in relationships, because they're not the best.
There is nothing more annoying.
Forgot.
Yeah, there is nothing more annoying, especially friends that have been with someone for like 8 years that have never used a nap in their life. There is nothing more annoying than going to a married couple's house and talking about dating, and they're just like, oh, it'll happen for you one day. No,
they
not
like,
helpful.
Every time they see that something negative has happened, they just go, oh well, move on to the next.
Plenty of fish in the sea.
It's so unhelpful.
Not ones I fancy though.
But the single friends get it. They're like, oh, that sucks, I'm really sorry for you. Like, they actually understand a lot more. So if you don't have single friends, which just sounds like maybe that girl could like really do with finding some more. And
a lot of the advice we're talking about now comes from a real like place of confidence, doesn't it? We're saying like, just go up to someone in real life, just meet new friends. Like,
just make new friends.
They're really hard things to do if you
come to my live
like
show.
Quite anxious.
Like singles events are perfect.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have DM'd me after being like, I came on my own and I met like really great girls. Like, most of the single events I go to quite a lot because I enjoy them.
Yeah.
Most of the time I don't meet
men, I miss
women.
going to single events. Like, I'm gutted that I can't go to single events again. But that's why when you are single, you have to enjoy this time, because last year I went to Bali and I met 100 strangers. It was a group travel trip.
Oh, cool.
Last June, so literally a year ago today I was there. And it was 100 strangers and I went on my own. And I'm so glad I did that, because I may never really get to do a 2-week holiday on my own again, because I mean, well, if my boyfriend went away for 2 weeks on his own, I'd be a bit I'd question it.
Or you'd have to like almost kind of request it in a way. You'd have to say like, is it okay if I do that?
I'd find it a little bit weird, but it is what it is. I'm sure lots of people do it.
Some people, people do. I know couples that do.
And you know what, that's healthy too.
Still, yeah.
But I mean, like, I probably wouldn't have that like urge as much as I did.
Yeah.
And like, I'm so happy that I did that and create those memories, and I had the best time. So I also would say, like, I never want anyone to look back on their single years and remembering them as like really sad years, because you also have to remember that you might not, I don't know how old you might be. So like, you could be 30 or you could be 36, you could be 40. I have a lot of women follow me that have either had their first marriage and divorce, so they're like more 50s, but I also have a lot that haven't met their person yet in their 40s, 50s. You don't want to be sad for that amount of time in your life. Like, you have to make your life great without another person doing that. And I don't care how hard that is, you have to do it for yourself. So like, you do just need to go to that first event, and then you'll just end up going to more.
Yeah, you will. It will like cycle.
The confidence comes once you've gone up to someone in real life. Practice like somewhere that isn't like, that's a bit more low key, and then you'll just do it a little bit more each time.
Yeah.
I've left notes. I've left serviettes.
Oh, cute.
You know, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. So good.
Serviettes with lipstick, like 0795. I've asked the waitress, like, the chef was really cute. Is he single? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, give him my number.
That's a good way to do it.
That's a really good way to do it.
So you're not like directly asking them.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, you could do that with another bartender as well. You could ask like the other bartender. I never thought
then you can ask them if they're single before, if you did want to approach the person you liked, you can make sure with their friend that they're single first.
Nice.
That's always a nice, safe way to do it.
Yeah. Awkward though if the friend says they are and then they say they're not.
I know, but again, you've just not got to take it as rejection.
Yeah, you've just got to be like, cool.
Oh, gosh. I had another question that I would like to touch on. What do you see as a healthy relationship?
Ooh. See, that's interesting because now I feel like I would say a lot of it is about not losing yourself. I still get friends that get into relationships and they just disappear. They like go off the side of the earth. I don't know where they go, and they're useless with all their friends. They don't reply anymore. They don't come to things anymore, or if they do, they're always with their partner. So for me, the most healthiest is when two people have, you know, their separate lives. Then I also know examples where they're almost so separate you don't even know they're together.
Yeah.
And I think getting that balance is just really important. Like, do things together, but then also still have your alone time, solo time. Like, don't lose contact with all your friends. That's such a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about for you?
I'd really agree with that. Like, my boyfriend's been invited to Wimbledon with the lads, and he's like, "Oh, do you want to come? I think maybe girlfriends." And I'm like, "No, like go with the lads. We'll go separately." And he's like, "Oh, cool, okay." Wicked sound. But that is really important. I do think you have to have your separate life, and there's nothing worse than seeing. I think girls tend to do it a little bit more than guys. Seeing a girl disappear off the face of the earth, and when they go for a breakup, they need everyone, and suddenly everyone isn't there for them.
This is the thing. It can really backfire.
For me, I think like consistency is really key. Like someone needs to be consistent in a relationship. Like that's why I've seen guys that really like get loads of presents at the beginning and it's flowers every week, and then 6 months in it stops. Don't be like that to begin with, because like it just stops and then the girl's really upset. Like consistency in terms of personality and stuff like that, like a consistent person is really important in a relationship. Healthy, just having a good balance and being able to talk to each other. There's been loads of times where I've been like, hang on, can I just pick you up on this because you said this in front of so and so, and I don't like I've done that loads because I am a bit like that. I'm bold and I'm like, and I'm outspoken. And there's been like, if ever not between us, but at a group table, maybe that a topic about feminism has come up or something in the news. And I don't know, someone's said before at a table, like, yeah, I don't get this whole like guys having to cross the road, like when a girl's on her own. And I'm there like, no, this is really important for you to understand, like, this is why. And I can talk about stuff like that with my boyfriend, because he'll be like, yeah, oh, I guess, yeah, God, I'll make sure I do that next time. And I find that I appreciate that so much, like being able to talk about anything and things that he might not be aware of, teaching each other every day, I guess. And like, I'm able to be like, I need you to do, like, be more like this for me, not change, but I'm like, I need the support here. Like, I need you to not do this. And he'll be like, yeah, okay. You know, like if he's ever made a joke and I'm like, I need you to not joke about that because it feels a bit, and he'll be like, oh, cool, God, yeah. And that kind of thing is healthy. I feel like when you can just talk about anything and it doesn't blow up. Yeah, you can just because he's actually it to me loads as well. Like, can you see it, or can you not bring up feminism in front of my family?
That's really funny.
Do you know what I
mean? Tone that down.
Don't bring up the gender pay gap today, Daisy.
But it's good because it's boundary setting, but not in like a like a destructive way. It's just saying like, look, you know, this is who
Maybe
we're meeting, not this topic. Yeah, it's really healthy.
Yeah, like I just think you just to be able to say anything to people without blowing up. Do you know what I mean? Like consistency, balance, and each other's love languages are really important. Like knowing that you're on the same wavelength with your love languages is actually so important, and most people roll their eyes at that, but it is actually science and it is actually really important, because I've seen two people where one person's love language is service, like service, doing everything around the house. Then the other person gets home and they're like, they don't hug them as they get in, and they're like, oh, I just want a hug, and this person will be like, for God's sake,
I've done everything, and they haven't said anything.
But this person just needs touch and just needs to have a hug on the way in. They don't care if you've loaded the dishwasher. Yeah. And that's really important, that you align with the love languages.
Yeah, just understand, ask them what theirs is.
Yeah, and if you don't understand, just try and be more of that love language type. That's really important, actually. Yeah. Like giving each other what you both need from a relationship. I think
recognising that they're doing it, like you said with the dishwasher, like before you might not have even, I don't know, recognised that, but like, oh, it's just something you do when you live together. When actually that was them trying to, like, you know, live up to your love language and like make a real effort.
And it is important to understand each other in that way. basic manners, please and thank you. But it is stuff like that over time it grinds on people.
Yeah.
So
it wears you down.
Yeah.
'Cause you're like, they're not appreciating me at all.
Yeah, and being aware of yourself in a relationship, it's healthy as well. Like, there's definitely been times where I'm like, if you said that to me, would I have been okay with that? Probably not. I was a bit sharp. Like, just being aware of yourself too.
Yeah, taking criticism. I think we can all do better at that. It's hard.
I'm very self-aware.
We're self-aware. So self-aware, I'm never wrong. I got a bit more of like a juicy dilemma as well, like a situation. What do you do when a guy you really like suddenly says he is not ready for a relationship, but will get back to you in a few months? Outrageous.
Outrageous.
Live your life, forget him.
Yeah, what? So he's just going to go and have his fun in Ibiza this summer, and then when he's back in September and it's boring again.
This sounds like a classic. Do you know the taxi cab theory of like when a man's ready to date, he won't necessarily pick his best match. He's just going to go with a committed relationship because he's ready.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, men particularly, they wait until they feel like they're ready, whether that's like their financial status or their career or whatever it is. And whereas women, we don't necessarily have that. They're quite the same. I feel like we're ready. If we meet someone really perfect, the circumstances won't matter. It sounds like to me, this person, there's something come up, he's realised he's not ready. And instead of actually doing the kind thing, which would be to end the connection and not give the promise of, a few months, because it sounds like they've said, in a few months, because I know you're a really great person and I really like you. I'm sure like all these words have come out, gushing. I can see it. I can see this exact situation and being like, actually, can you just kind of be on hold for me while I figure this out? Like, say he's just lost his job. He thinks he'll get another job in like a few months. I don't know.
God, I've met so many people like this.
Yeah, exactly. I can see this situation playing out like so many times. And I think you need to take that no as no and move on. Like, because I think then it'll be like your ghosting situations. Okay, fine, they come back in a few months. Then there'll be something else.
I agree with that. So that person, the guy in that situation, it can also turn into a push-pull, which is then not healthy. So if the girl is just like...
waiting.
Yeah, well, if she's just like, no, sorry, not good enough for me, he would then probably like come back and be like, oh no, do you know what I mean? And it can turn into this really toxic push-pull. So I think when someone's in that in-between, you actually just need to bat them off. Like literally, no. Like don't let someone wait on you. And it's fine if you're like, oh, they're quite nice and you're not that bothered. And if in 6 months he texts you, you might see him. That's okay. But don't wait on it. Multi-date in the meantime.
That's the thing. And I think if you start, you'll find someone that actually is showing up for you, is consistent, and you'll naturally just be more attracted to that person. And that's what multi-dating is so good for, because it does weed out these people that don't commit to you much faster, because you see it in other people. And then you're like, oh yeah, actually that is how I wanted to be treated. And I think it helps you just get to that conclusion quicker.
100%. The other side of multi-dating as well, you learn really quickly who isn't right for you. Because I did 2 dates with my boyfriend. I went on a first date with someone else.
Right.
And oh my God, this other guy, we were so not for each other. And I was like, right, I know that I'm on the right path with the other guy.
It really does help.
And then I decided after the third date, like no dates for anyone else, because that's just immoral that I would want reciprocated.
Yeah.
But like that's up to you and the person you're dating, I'm guessing.
I say five and six.
Yeah.
So it's
I
similar.
think that's fine. Yeah.
I also think for me, it depends on like where we've got to in those 5 or 6 dates.
1,000%. Like if you've been intimate and stuff, it does change things.
100%. And that's what I think so many people get confused with multi-dating. They think you're just like sleeping around with everyone. No. That's not how it works. It means you're going on like multiple early dates.
Yeah, and I went on like a really boring coffee date, like with the first date.
And they're not that intense, exactly. Yeah. Lots of mine are just like going to the pub. Like,
so I could have met a friend. Like it didn't feel bad.
Yeah, you don't feel guilty about it. And that's what is also really good for me. It's taught me that I don't need to feel guilty about meeting up with someone, just going for a drink and having a chat. Like just because I've been on 2 dates with someone else, it doesn't mean I can't start that with someone else. And just like, again, like you said, it just reevaluates like how you feel about that original person. Yeah. It's so good. I love it. I think everyone should do it.
I only started doing it as I met my partner, which is really interesting actually. That is like the first time I've done it.
Makes me think like, oh, is that, I don't know.
Why? I used to think, what? No, but you're right. I think you do need to understand that you can just be having a chat with someone. It doesn't mean anything bad or weird is going on or anything that anyone needs to be judged for.
A lot of the time, like these dates end in like a hug goodbye. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even
It's so
like,
rare to kiss on a first date, isn't it? Because they're never good enough to feel like you want to kiss someone.
You don't have to feel guilty about that. And even if you do kiss them, oh well, like what's the difference to that than going out like every week, which a lot of people do, kissing multiple people when you're out and about? Like, I don't see the difference personally.
No, I agree with that. And I do just think if someone ghosts you and you have other people to text, because let's face it,
100%.
half the time it is just in the boredom, and you miss the person that was dating you. Normally the person that ghosted you, generally sometimes you can be like, oh fine, they weren't for me, but you just want to text someone. So it alleviates that like empty hole if you've gone from texting someone loads for ages and then they suddenly disappear.
And I think it's similar to like always having a date in the diary. Like when you are committing to someone, you know, that reassures you.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a version of that. It just might not be with the same person.
Yeah.
Because when it did happen, that ghosting actually, I already did have another first date booked in on the Wednesday, and this happened on the weekend, like when you start replying. So like, it helped because I was like, well, actually, and I met that guy in person and I was quite excited for this first date. So I was like, you know what? Like now at least I can go on that, and I feel a bit freer from that situation because I'm like moving on in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's fine as long as these people aren't interlinking. Like, don't go on a date with someone and then date like their brother's best mate. Like,
yeah, I didn't think of that.
Like, be savvy about it, okay?
Yeah. I mean, most of mine are app dates, so I don't even know if they'd be connected.
You just don't want to ruin a chance with someone good.
Sometimes I think like if I'm swiping and I'm like, how do I know that you're not like that guy's friend?
That happened loads when I lived with someone.
Yeah.
We were on the same apps and we would see the same men like us.
Yeah.
And we would have to sometimes check when we were going on a date, have you spoken to this person?
Yeah, it's happened to me a few times where I've shown like a photo and they've been like, oh, I actually went on a date with him like, you know, months ago, and it does give you a bit like, oh.
I mean, there's guys walking around that have spoken to me, my sister and my cousin, so.
Wow. They have a type. Your bloodline.
We're all kind of like different hair colours and everything, so it's just wild.
Oh, fine. It's so weird.
So weird.
Yeah.
So that was funny. When we were all single at the same time, we would have to check with each other.
Yeah, being like anyone.
Yeah. I don't want to go on a date with him. And actually my sister did go on a date with someone that she was like, he's just really nice, but I'm not really ready. And he started talking to me, not knowing we were sisters. And she was like, you date him if you want. I don't mind. Nothing happened. But I didn't. I was like, I actually can't do that. That's like a step too far for me.
Yeah, well then if they do become your partner, that's so awkward. Like,
yeah, a little bit.
They'll come to the family gathering being like,
drunken night
didn't realise that was your sister.
Oh gosh.
Hell.
I had a question about the spark. How do I know that I feel a spark?
Oh, as in like you're seeing all your dates as friends?
They just said, how do I know when it is the spark? Like, what is it meant to feel like?
I don't think we're meant to be looking for the spark.
Exactly. That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
I thought I couldn't work out if she just meant like a romantic connection.
Yeah, kind of just like, how do you know the spark? Like, you know everyone talks about the spark.
Yeah.
I think that's what she meant. I hope it is. But
I've heard it's actually meant to feel like getting into a warm bath, and I really like that analogy.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's
like
that? Do you know?
I can't remember, unfortunately. It might have been Logan Ury.
Okay.
Could have been.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, and I hate being that person that's like, it just feels really safe and consistent.
Yeah.
But that is actually
that is it. It's warm and easy, and I think that's
like I've had loads of friends be like, you don't really talk about him, and I'm like, it's just because it's always just good. Like, we don't have anything to talk about, like we're doing all these fun things.
Yeah.
But normally, like, I would have dated people and I'd be like, oh, guess what? Jack's done this time. Like, can you believe this? And he didn't reply here, and now he's here and he's not texting me, but he's online. And it's just never
so exhausting.
Any of that. Like, it does just feel like secure. Like I was an anxious attachment, but you don't ever actually lose your attachment style technically.
Yeah.
Technically. But I am definitely now more secure.
I think that's the thing. Like, everyone
secure.
fluctuates, right? Like I'd like to think I'm insecure the majority of the time.
Really?
But when someone triggers the anxious, like, it definitely comes out. Yeah. I'm not avoidant. Like, I look at those characteristics and I'm like, none of that is me. Like,
yeah, I wasn't avoidant.
Like, no chance. Like, but if someone's making me feel unsafe, I will more likely latch, because
actually that's a good sign for someone to know how who isn't right for you.
Yeah.
If you go more there, because you are so anxious when someone isn't right for you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If they trigger that reaction to me, I know, they're probably not secure because they're being avoidant.
Yeah.
And it's making me want to, like, I guess, stick my claws in a bit and be a bit more needy. And I don't want to be in that space either.
Yeah, so people mistake that feeling for the sparks. It's like that tummy feeling, but that's actually your nervous system being activated.
You're just anxious.
Yeah, it's like
That's
awful.
what butterflies are. It's
horrible.
not nice.
I really hope I never ever have to feel like that ever again.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst feelings, I think, when you're dating. I think that's worse than being ghosted.
Really?
Yeah, I think like wondering if someone's ever going to reply to you. Yeah, I guess
whereas
so.
This is ongoing. Like, I know what you mean. Like,
it's awful.
Constantly checking for that number 1 on archive.
Yeah.
I've spent too much of my life like flicking out my watch because I've archived them thinking that will help.
Yeah.
Doesn't help, by the way, just in case anyone cares. Because then you just look for the one.
Yeah.
Like on that little
WhatsApp. Isn't that the worst?
Oh, yeah.
And every time it was the one and you'd look and it's never them.
And then when it
comes,
you're so nervous you can barely open it because you think it's going to be like a rejection text.
Yeah. But that doesn't go to say that you shouldn't date someone anxious if you do meet someone with an anxious attachment style. Like, it's fine to date any type of attachment style, but you just need to know that you need to nurture a certain kind. So if you're secure, it's good for you to date an anxious because you can help them become secure, and then you can both be quite secure together.
Yeah, it's interesting, but you tend to go for the opposite.
Yeah. Oh, I was going for avoidance all the time.
Yeah.
Like my pattern. Have you read the book Attachment?
No, I haven't.
It is the best book I've ever read.
Really?
And actually that helped me a lot in understanding people. If you are struggling, if you've been ghosted at the minute, I'd say that's a very helpful book to understand, like get a point of view that it's actually nothing to do with you. It is all in an attachment style. And normally the attachment styles start from when you're like this high, depending on what's gone on at home. So generally speaking, it's very helpful to understand why someone might be avoidant, and knowing what I knew about my past like relationships or past exes or people I've dated. When I read this book, it gets you to like list the people, and I listed them, and you could tell why. Like, I then knew the reasons why they were avoidant from what I knew about their life.
That's really interesting. So it helps you kind of self-diagnose diagnose other people as well.
It was super healing.
Yeah. I will read that. It's been on my list for a long time.
I know. I can't lend anyone the book because all these details are in it.
Yeah. Like in the margins. Like, like Jack was this.
Liam. But yeah, that's a really good thing to do.
Like, why would you write code names in your own book? That's so funny.
Yeah,
I read everything on the Kindle, so to be fair, I can never lend anyway, unless you want my physical device.
Honestly, one of the best books I've ever read to like understand a bit of psychology if you are quite struggling. But yeah, back to the spark, it really isn't a thing. So you shouldn't really feel any amazing bubble of joy. Like, no. You should just really want to see about the connection.
Yeah. Exactly. I think you can be excited about seeing them again, speaking to them again. But that's very different to the spark of like, oh my gosh, he's going to be my husband and I'm going to have his children. Like, that's limericing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and future pacing and stuff. And what I will say is also like, I erase the spark idea and just give someone a chance, because I need to be careful how I say this because it sounds awful to just be like, I really gave my boyfriend a chance. I don't mean that.
I know exactly what you mean.
It was the first time. Yeah, it was the first time ever that I gave someone a proper shot at actually getting to know me and me getting to know them, because I was just a bit more patient. Yeah, like we both admit our second date was a bit weird. Like, we kind of got maybe a bit too drunk, so we don't really remember the conversations we had. It wasn't really of any, like, we didn't really do anything fun. Like, we were a bit like, could have both taken it or left it after the second date. But for some reason, I think he texted me that week and I was like, yeah, third date, like, got no others, it's fine. And no, but it wasn't like I did fancy him and we got on and I knew like his morals. But then the third date I was like, oh, this was really different to the second. Okay, fourth date. Oh, this is really good. Fifth date. And it like slowly progressed. Whereas I've been so quick in the past to get rid of people after the first or second date. And I think that's where like our society now is so like just need this now, and if this person isn't this for me now, just get rid. We do need to just give people a little bit of a chance. If they give you the ick on the first date because you don't like their trousers, there might be the one pair of trousers that you don't like in the wardrobe. Like just I know that's really stupid, but it does happen. Just give someone a bit more of a chance. If they spoke too much on the first date, they might have just been a bit nervous. Give them a little bit more of a chance.
Like my philosophy around this is like, unless it's an immediate no, you know, like they've made you feel unsafe. And it's not like it doesn't have to be a hell yes. It can just be like a maybe. Still go on the maybes.
I agree with that.
Still go. But I've found a lot of people don't follow that advice. And I've been experiencing what you have, whereas I've felt like people have been cutting our connections off way too early. And I'm like, I don't even know what that was about. Like that date that ended at 3 a.m. and he said no spark. What was that about? I don't know. Couldn't tell weird. You. Like, okay, I'm fine, moving on. But like, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, wait, why did that end? Like, what was the reasoning? Like, properly? Did you actually? Are you just not ready? And any kind of stable person makes you feel like it's a no because you think, oh, this could lead somewhere, and I actually don't want that. Like, I think it's all a blessing in disguise that they do cut it.
It will be, because I think when two people want to see each other again, naturally it just unfolds. And that's another thing in our dating process. It just felt a natural progression that we ended up on the 5th, 6th, 7th date, and suddenly people were like, how long have we been together now? And we didn't even know, because it was just like a natural
you weren't counting
progression.
Anymore.
So there's that as well, just like giving people a bit of a chance, because I went on a lot of dates with a lot of people that weren't emotionally available. So even if I did give them the chance, I don't think it would have worked. But I also did date some nice people that I was just like, meh, boring after a first date. And I don't know if that's good enough, really. I mean, you have to be excited. But, you know, I think a second date should never be fully off the cards.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this was a lovely first date. No, it was. Well, I've had such a great time talking to you, Daisy. Thank you. Thank you for our lovely first date.
Lovely.
Hopefully we can have a second.
Don't ghost me.
I won't ghost you. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a blast.
So much fun. Thank you so much.